Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. Tonight, we'll be looking at a topic, designing effective, efficient, and engaging learning course. Designing effective, efficient, and engaging learning course. And we have the very privilege and pleasure of having my brother, my friend, my colleague, all the way from Kenya, all the way from Kenya, East Africa. Is a complete dynamic African. He has friends, network, and contacts, relationship across Africa and, of course, the rest of the world. Mr. Martin Wanjohi is the head of Learning and Development, High Performance Africa. He has a first degree in marketing, Bachelor's of Science. He's also a master instruction designer. He's a member of the prestigious Association of Talent Development, ATD, e-learning instruction design certificate, certified first principles of instruction. He is a member of the Distance Open and E-Learning Practitioners Association of Kenya, DOLPAC. Is also a member of the Distance Open and E-Learning Practitioners Association of East Africa, DOLPAEA. Ladies and gentlemen, this is someone I've listened to, someone that has content, and so generously and graciously of him will be sharing with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome very warmly Mr. Martin Wanjohi. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. And let me just say it's a pleasure. I always feel great talking about L&D, about my area of passion. And I didn't start, as you can see from the profile, I didn't start out in learning or in HR. So just to share, I should have added there, I just recently finished my higher national diploma in HR, just to tick the box, yeah? And possibly there's a joke going around that I'm actually looking for internship in HR. So again, my dear friends, if you have a virtual internship, I wouldn't mind practicing a little bit of HR in Nigeria. So, and it's my pleasure to be with everyone here. And just to feel the audience, on chat, you can share, are you fully in L&D or are you fully in HR? Or is a mix of you're in HR and you do L&D? We can share that on chat. Or other question is, how many of us actually do learning and development at whatever level? You can say L&D if you're doing L&D, HR if you just do HR, L&D and HR if you do both. I know there is usually no clear-cut distinction. Okay, good. I'm seeing L&D and HR, and it's all one and the same thing because we are in the people's development space. So to start us off, as you've noticed, my degree is actually in marketing, Bachelor of Science marketing. Then now I'm in learning and development. So, and I run a L&D focused company. It's still a mystery how I ended up with it up to today, but I always say things work together for good. Now, in 2019, and I started training by training my sales team. And that's where many trainers start. We all start out as accidental trainers. Nobody grows up saying, I want to be a trainer when I grow up. We actually get to know about training when we get to the workplace. So in 2019, after running L&D for quite a number of years, since 2012, that would be about 7 years, 6 years, I felt it was time to actually do e-learning. I told myself, how difficult can it be? After all, we are running face-to-face, so we just need some microphones, some cameras, then we can record the sessions, put them online. And that's what we did. Now, at that point in the HR industry is when they were just bringing in the continuous professional development learning. So HR practitioners were glad that they didn't now have to move anywhere. They could learn at their comfort at any time. But they liked it, but I didn't like it. So, and I talked to a friend and he told me, Martin, if you're looking for something better, if you want to make your trainings better, look for something called instructions systems design. I was okay, then I'll look for that. So later in that year, I ended up in Dubai attending this certification program by the Association of Talent Development, the Master Instruction Design course. And I remember as I was signing up for this program, they asked me, Martin, are you knowledgeable enough? Have you done training for a while? And I was like, yes, I've been doing this for the last 8 years now. There is nothing new. So I think most interesting thing during those 3 days, all that time was shock on me. And what I told myself in that training is exactly what people tell me when I run these trainings with them. This was what I was asking myself throughout the course. What is it, Martin? What is it that you have been doing and calling training all those years? That was a shock. So, and when I came back, I decided I want to implement best practice. So I went on ahead and did the e-learning certificate with the Association of Talent Development. And then one page in the book, participant's book, caught my attention. And it was called The First Principles of Instruction. And as things would work out, 1 year later, I found a gentleman running that training. So I dug myself into that. Now, to get on, the various roles in the learning and development sector. And I've divided them into when you're looking at physical trainings and when you're looking at e-learning. Now, if you're looking at physical training, this would be your face-to-face. You would have your instructional designers, you'd have your training facilitators or those delivering trainings. Then you have your learning administrators. Your learning administrators these are the guys who decide who goes to what training, who needs which training internally in the organization. Then if you're looking at e-learning, you have your e-learning instructional designers, then those who develop the e-learning, and next to them is the people who do the animations or actually now bringing the e-learning to life. Then you have the teams that run and manage the learning management system. Now, in the audience, do we have any one of these roles with us? You're an instructional designer, you're a training facilitator, and the training facilitator is also the trainer, right? Which roles do we have in the session today? Let's see that on chat. If you're an instructional designer, if you're a training facilitator, learning administrator, learning and learning management system administrator, if you do animation, if you do e-learning development or e-learning instruction design. Okay, seeing training facilitator, okay. Okay, great. So I think the audience is skewed more to face-to-face training, but we will be covering both, right? So just a few more just to see. I've seen 3 training facilitator, Martha, Gillian, facilitator, okay. 2 more and then we can go on. Instructional design, good. So you can even be doing all of them, right? That's when you have a learning department of one, yeah? So an MC is an instructional designer, is a facilitator, and is a learning administrator. Great, great. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is about designing effective, efficient, and engaging learning. And where the story starts is from this book. So some years back, this gentleman called Charles did this book, Instruction Design Theories and Models. And when he was a student of Dr. David Merrill, And when he presented the book to Dr. David Merrill, Merrill told him, Charles, there's only one principle of instruction design. So Charles got angry and he told me, no, why don't you do this? You go write a paper about it. And so Dr. Merrill wrote a paper about it, the first principles of instruction. And this is in early 2000. And then he wrote the book, the first edition. And then he did this is the latest book, the revised edition of the first principles of instruction. So what basically we are going to be talking about is what is in these books. Now, to the audience, these are terminologies that you have used, you heard others using. Which ones are we familiar with? Again, sharing on chat, you can just share the one you're familiar with, the term you're familiar with out of this list that we have here. Okay, I know most of us certifications, that is common. Badging is common. Okay, let's share them. These are terms, words we use every day. Yeah. So Dr. Max Cropper, who I had the pleasure of learning the first in principles of instruction over the last 3 years, and he's still my mentor, came up with this list, and he calls them the shiny objects in learning and development. So we use them a lot, but sometimes we use them as words without knowing what they fully mean. And we lose meaning of learning with some of this, like learning styles. Some of them lie within the learning science and adult learning theories and principles. Okay, so I'm seeing we are familiar with them. Now, let me just remove this. Okay. So this is Dr. Merrill's insertion that most trainings are information only. And they use few research-based principles of instruction. Now, learning is a science. How adults learn is a systematic way. Like right now, you can, in this session, I think if anyone remembers the phrase, how do you name the colors of the rainbow? How they are ordered. We all remember Richard of York went to battle in vain, right? That's a science of the learning that if you create an acronym, then you're able to remember it way years later. The other example is your phone number. Now, phone number is, most people will give you in digits of 3s, and all numbers mostly will be 7 digits. Anyway, numbers that you're supposed to remember, not like your bank account that is 101 numbers, but say your phone number. Now, the way I know my phone number is the way I know it. If you arrange those digits in 2s, you've lost me. So I know my number as 0722, then 163 053. And that's the way I know it. So if you tell it to me in 160553, you've lost me. So now back to Merrill, he says that most trainings we provide information. Now, let me back up a little bit. And as I start this and say that one thing I learned, which was a big shock to me, was that training is not always the solution. But mostly we jump into trainings because we believe there is a problem, but we don't know if it is a problem of knowledge or of skills. Now, if the problem is not a knowledge or skills problem, you can train until Jesus comes back and there will be no change. And that's one of the things why people say we don't see the value of training, because what were you training for? What problem were you solving? Was it a problem to be solved with skills and knowledge? Or it was just, say you are looking at a good example. you want bank tellers to perform faster. So you train them, but you find they're still performing the same speed. But then you discover is their machines process slow. So it's not them that are slow, it's the machines that are slow, the equipment, or there are some processes that make them to delay. So again, training is not always the solution. Now, the other thing is media and technology has eclipsed instruction strategy. So TikTok, YouTube, what else? WhatsApp, Zoom, every technology, it is not about the technology. The technology is the vehicle, but training still is being carried by the technology, but the technology is not the training. So again, also we are here in technology, we can add AI, right? Now I want to throw this question to the audience. What factors do you think are necessary to achieve efficient, effective, and engaging instruction and learning and performance? We can share that on chat. What factors do we think are necessary to achieve effective and efficient learning? Let's share that on chat. And those joining, we are talking about how to design effective, efficient, and engaging learning. So Tabitha, I'm saying identify target audience. Perfect. Okay, learning content and mode of learning. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Rita. One more, then we can proceed. Effective communication skills. Okay. Now, Dr. Merrill and Dr. The EQ is effective, efficient, and engaging. So Dr. Merrill comes up with this, that we need to provide, the learning program is efficient if it provides knowledge and skills quickly. You don't want someone to take a whole day to learn what they could have learned in an hour. That's not best use of time. Then the other thing is that it enables the learner to perform better. Now, just to speak to this, the one and the only purpose of learning is to improve the performance of the learner and for the purpose of them enabling the organization to achieve their strategy. If there's not that connection, you're wasting your budget. Because if you're just providing information, then, and it does not help them to perform better, then you have a problem. Because then how will you show your return on investment? Then the other thing is engaging, is it keeps learners involved in the process. So learning is a process. It's not an event, it is a process. Now, the other thing we need to understand is learning does not only happen in that training session. What happens in that training session is just like 20% of what the learner might actually need to learn. So we also need to have here comes in the 20-10-20-70 principles, that what you learn in the training room is about 30%, 10%. What you learn from your peers is another 20%. What you actually learn by doing forms the 70%, which is the bulk. Now, what Dr. Merrill does is he looks at what we are teaching and how we are teaching based on what it is that we are teaching. So, good example, information about, if you wanted to give someone to learn some information about Nigeria, you'd give them information about Nigeria, and you would tell them about some facts about like the capital city, the biggest second city, the biggest airport, then here is you have nothing to show them. Now, as we're looking at this, remember this phrase, monkey see, monkey do, right? So we need to see what is we're supposed to learn, and then we're able to do it. So then the other thing is he divides it into parts of, like if you were to teach someone the parts of a car, you would want to give them the names and the descriptions, and you need to show them where they're located. Imagine you've never seen a car for the first time and you're being taught where the part, how the car looks like, or the parts of a car. The kinds of, still with cars, you have your makes and the models, and then you need to show people the examples and the non-examples. So you'd want to show them an example of a Toyota and an example of a car that is not a Toyota. Then the how-to. And here in the how-to is where most of corporate learning or workplace learning happens. How to switch on your computer, how to file specific papers, how to do a specific process. Then what happens is when you combine what would happen if an employee does not show up at the day. Say you are teaching labor laws and specifically maybe disciplinary. What happens, the what if. And I'd like to welcome questions as we go on chat, and then we'll come to them. Now, to introduce the principle, it's a very simple principle. So it's a five-step thing that you need to have a problem, or your learning is task-centered. You need to have some activation. You need to have some demonstration and application. And then the integration is when the learner actually uses what they've learned at work. And I'll just go through the principles one by one. And the definition of the principle. This is a relationship that is true always under appropriate condition, regardless of the method or model used to implement the principle. And it is the same across. But then principles are supported by corollaries. So those would be like sub-principles. So the principle number one, activation, says that learning is promoted when learners recall existing knowledge and skill as a foundation of a new skill. Here we are saying adult learners don't come to the training room blank. Sometimes they even come knowing more than the trainer. So we need to to activate their previous knowledge or on the skill, and this forms the basis of where we are going to add our teaching. The second principle is the demonstration principle, that learning is promoted when learners are shown the skill to be learned. So you need to demonstrate. If you want someone to be able to hammer a nail, imagine you trying to explain to them how to hammer a nail without actually having a hammer, a nail, and actually hammering the nail. So what it means, what this principle says, the learner sees what the learner needs to be shown what they're going to learn. Then the application principle is learning is promoted when the learner uses their newly acquired skills to solve a problem. So this learner, we have shown them how to hammer a nail. Now we ask them, okay, can you put together a chair? And they will be hammering there. So they're actually applying what they were shown on how to hammer nails. Then the integration principle is that learning is promoted when you reflect or discuss or defend your newly acquired knowledge. Now, anything someone learns, if they do not use it, then they lose it. And this integration principle is actually the transfer of the skill to the workplace. In the training room, it is them, they can reflect and discuss how they're going to apply it, but then the actual integration happens when they get back to the workplace. The problem-centered is about learning is promoted when learners acquire skill in the context of real-world problems. So remember, we brought these people to a training because we saw that there was a problem of knowledge and skill. So we would not be teaching with hypothetical things. We would want to teach with things that they experience every day at the workplace. So let's say that the person we mentioned that is taking on a disciplinary course. We would want actually we would use a real case scenario where there's a disciplinary problem. So again, this is the first principles, that one, our course is task-centered, that we're actually trying to teach the learner how to perform a specific task or solve a specific problem. And first we recognize their prior knowledge, and then we will want to demonstrate to them as the trainer. Then we'll have the learners apply what we have taught them. Then we'd want them to reflect how they can apply this at the workplace, or actually apply it at the workplace. Now, it depends on whether this is an open public program or is an in-house training. With in-house, you're able to follow up on the learner integration easily. Now, this is how to evaluate your course. And if you have a course with you, you can actually use this to evaluate. Now, when we say 5-star, is where you have used all the 5 principles. Now, I need to point out, it is not always that we have a 5-star course. And as I go to the next slide, if you can just, and this will give some time to do. I think I'll want to come back to this slide and have people, maybe 1 or 2, evaluate, or you can do a screenshot and then use it to evaluate your training. Then at the end of the training, we can come back to it. So these are the 5 levels of instruction. Level 0 is when you're doing presentation only. Then level 1 is where you have presentation and demonstration. Level 3 is when, or rather 3-star is when you're doing presentation, demonstration, and application. And then a 4-star training, you would have your presentation, your demonstration, your application, and it's centered around a task. Then a 5-star is when you have your presentation, your demonstration, your application, your course is task-centered, and there is activation and integration. So this helps you to know how many stars you can rate your course. Now, again, let me just say, sometimes it's not always that you can achieve this. It also depends on how much time do you have to design your training. If you're in business, how much are you charging for this training? Because training, a good training program, and maybe here I might want to say that you can also categorize trainings based on how much is being charged. If you're charging me $2,000, $3,000 for a training that is maybe 4 days, there's a lot I would expect. I would expect to leave there with a participant's guide. I would expect to leave with some job aids. But then if the training is a 1 day and you're charging me maybe $100, then my expectations also would not be high. Also, as a trainer, it takes different times to design and develop a training. So all those are factors. Again, 5-star, the best place. Can we achieve 5-star learning all the time? Not always. But again, the higher you try to go, the better. So I want to give this example of a course that we designed. And the task was that we wanted all the managers to be able to perform tasks that they make them customer-centric. The course of the title was customer centricity. So for the activation, what we had was that we would conduct an assessment on customer centricity on all the managers. Then 2, we would share stories on customer centricity. For the demonstration, we would tell the learners of all the elements of a customer centricity. Then we'd show the customers, show customer centricity in an organization. For the application, we would have the learners role play on how to be customer centric. And then we had already mapped out the elements, and there were 10, so we would have them role play all the 10. Then for the integration, we would have the learners create an action plan of how to integrate customer centricity elements in their daily work. This is another training, and this is what we call the first principles grid. And this is still a course in progress for the last, I think, 1 year and a half, 2 years. So this course was designed to enable what we call, to skill positions we call the Office of Strategy Management, or even the Chief Strategy Officer. This was a course that was targeted toward them. So the task or the problem we wanted to be able to solve with this course was to enable the participants or the learners to create the organization's strategic plan and apply the balance scorecard on the strategy. So there are 2 things here. Then for the activation, we would provide an example of a strategy that has been developed and executed using the balance scorecard. The demonstration was a demonstration of how an organization had created its balance scorecard, created its strategy, and then executed it using the balance scorecard. Then for the application, we would have the learners practice the strategy creation process and create the balance scorecard. Then for the integration we would have the learners reflect on the steps taken to create the strategy and execute it using the balance scorecard. Just a module design of some other course, and this was a course on performance needs analysis. And you will see we have mapped what task we want the learner to be able to do because of taking that session. And we have mapped what would the instructor demonstrate and what would the learner apply, right? So let me just go back here. Now, let me use business needs. When we would in this module of the business needs, we would want the learner to be able to identify the business needs. So one of the things we'll be doing is show the learners where and how to get the business needs. Then the instructor would also we would work together with the learners on an exercise to identify business needs using various documents in the organization. Then the learner application is, we would have the learners identify performance needs related to the business. This would be maybe specifically with a case or with their own strategy. Now, this is a deeper version of where now, and this would be used in e-learning. This first one can be used in face-to-face, then this can be used in e-learning. And if you look at the business, we'll just work again with the business needs. We would, the tell is general, the way we give information. The show is with a specific business. Then the ask is what we're asking the learner to do. So we are also assessing how well are they grasping, or how well are they able to achieve the learning outcome that we had for that module. Then, and this is what we have on the tasks is actually the modules in that course, right? But at the end of that module, this is the task that we want them to be able to perform. Now, note, we are not interested in topics. We are interested in what can they be able to perform? What task can they be able to perform as a result of taking that unit of learning? So first principles of instruction is more concerned on how well someone can perform a specific task because of that learning. And how we're able to do that is we map out. This is on the course of the create the strategy and execute the organizational strategy using the balance scorecard. So here we had to map all the competencies, all the tasks that would be required for you to be able to create a strategy and execute it using the balance scorecard. So this what you're looking at is a blueprint of the course, right? So, and what runs from left to right on that first top where they develop the strategy. Let me just highlight. Let's just get one of these tools. Okay. So what we have, these are the core competencies or the core tasks, all these that we have in our task analysis. These are the core competencies or the core tasks that someone has to be able to perform well, to be able to achieve the task that we wanted of them to be able to create a strategy and execute the organization strategy using the balance scorecard. Then what we have going down, this would be your sub skills or sub competencies that to be able to develop the strategy, you need to be able to formulate the strategy, you need to be able to conduct a SWOT analysis, you need to be able to conduct Porter's 5 forces, you need to be able to identify the value gap, and then you need to be able to create a change agenda. Here note, for you to be able to perform that sub task, there is a sub competency that you need. And when you combine all these, then you'll be able to achieve this competency of developing a strategy. Then the second, so this you map out even before, as this is what we're doing is the designing the learning program. Then what we'll see next is how do you develop it. Okay, so this is again, us going into the design, and we're asking ourselves, and this is the follow-up of the task analysis. If you will, let me just go back. If you will see, the first is being able to formulate strategy, and then the cascading. And this is on just this, the competency of develop the strategy. So this is what that we are designing this module, developing, and we are thinking around what scenario are we going to use to be able to teach effectively. Remember, using real world examples. So our scenario was the strategy and performance manager at company XX has been tasked to lead the organization in coming up with the next strategic plan for the organization. The current 2018-2022 strategy comes to an end in 6 months. So we are looking at within strategy formulation and cascading. Just within strategy and cascading and alignment, what will we demonstrate? What are we going to tell? What are we going to show? What are we going to do or have the learners do? Within this second sub skill of being able to conduct a SWOT and a PESTEL, what are we going to do as an instructor? What are we going to tell the learner? What are we going to show the learner? What are we going to have the learner do? So, which is the way, I don't know. Now, this was for an exercise, and I think I'd want to pause there, see if there are any questions on chat. But first, before we pause, I'd like to go back to this slide where we can have people evaluate a course that they have designed. I remember we had some trainers in the session. You can just take one one course that you've done and just run an assessment. Is it task-centered? Have you mapped out the activation? Have you done a demonstration? Was there an application? Was there integration? And then you can share on chat how many stars. No, I am the one doing that, painting just to map out. Yeah. I'll end up stop the screen share. Okay. And then I'll map, let me do it again so that it's a clean. Okay, there we go. So we can use this to evaluate our course. Let's just give it, if anybody has done that, they can share on chat what rating they got for their training. Is it a 2-star, 1-star, 3-star, 4-star, or 5-star? Okay, then Yemi, I think we can move on to the Q&A, and then we'll have the participants do that course, that exercise. Yeah. Yemi, over to you for the Q&A session. Okay, so I'm seeing a 4-star. Okay, perfect. Okay. Someone else who's done an assessment of their course? I'm seeing one. Nemsley has the 4-star. Okay. Anyone else who has evaluated? You can share. Okay. As we wait for that, we can do any questions around what we've actually been doing? Aha, I have another course that's rated 2-star. Okay, great. So, and again, we can rate our courses, and then one course can be this, the other one can be another star, but it might be based on the time that we had to design and develop it, and also for what purpose it was, and how long the course was. Because if you have a course that is just maybe about 3 hours, you might not be able to achieve all this. Because this course I've shared here, this course is about 4 days. It's about 5 days. So if someone says, no, we want to do this in 2 days, there's a lot of take that will be taken away, because you might not be able to do the demonstrations, you might cut down on the applications, and then you might just have to be doing with the learners. Okay. Okay. So what I want to give us something for you to do is to actually map a course that you'd want to develop on the first principles grid, so that you have your task or your problem, you have your activation, you have your demonstration, and you have your Let me just go back to this slide. So you have this kind of thing, like this. So you have your task or problem that you want to solve with the learning. Then you map out your activation, you map out your demonstration, your application, and your integration. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my email address on chat. So I've put my email on chat. If you're keen to take on that assignment, take it and then email me to review what you've done. And then I can maybe be able to advise. Okay, so that's my email on chat. Now, just to share, we do what I do is I train on instruction design, and my program uses what I've actually just been sharing with everyone in this webinar, using the first principles of instruction to design effective, efficient, and engaging learning. The other thing I also teach is about HR excellence, achieving organizational effectiveness. Now, this is a course I developed this year, mid this year, based on quite a number of insights. Now, as you do instruction design, what happens is you enter into the area of performance improvement, and you cannot also leave out organization development. So it's a progressive journey. Then the other thing I teach is the same. We have a course and these two courses, we run physical and also we run virtual. Just to share my contact information, if you'd like to check me out on LinkedIn or to connect with me on email, and that's my phone number. So I'd want to leave this for 1 minute. You can actually just screen share. I think I'll share my LinkedIn also on chat. And I want us to look at questions that we have and a way forward. What insights have you gained from this session? Have you seen some things that you need to change in how you design and develop? And kindly note, we have not even touched facilitation. Facilitation is all another training delivery is another competency on its own. On this, what we covered was just the design and the development. So, Oliemi, back to you for the Q&A.
Thank you so much. That was an excellent presentation. I really, really enjoyed it and learned quite a lot from that approach. 5-star indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the opportunity to ask questions around the subject matter today. If you like to ask a question or you want to make a contribution, please do raise your hands so that we can allow you and lead us to know that Mr. Martin is 2 hours behind us. So if we are 9 p.m. in Nigeria, it's 11 in Kenya right now. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up and appreciate most sincerely Mr. Martin for this highly sacrificial contribution and support. Please, if you have questions around this subject or around L&D, is available to take it quickly. I'm checking, or you want to drop your questions in the chat box if you prefer that. I'm also checking. He has dropped his contacts in case you want to reach out to him.
Let me stop share and just share my LinkedIn on chat. And it's always a pleasure to connect with people who are in learning and development or who have an interest in learning and development.
Okay. I do not see any hands up yet, and I do not see any question yet, but I'm patient. At least we still have 10 minutes if we choose to utilize it. Oh, okay, okay. Thank you so much. I see that.
Yeah. So I'm dropping my LinkedIn. I'll be very glad to connect with guys, people who are interested in instruction design. Now, instruction design, just to mention, is an art and a science. Yeah. So trying to solve problems you didn't even know existed. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so Martin says, thank you so much, Mr. Martin. This is really educative. I agree absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll reach out to Mr. Martin if he is available to take us another aspect of L&D at his earliest convenience. We are always glad and excited to have him. As always, this session will be uploaded tonight on YouTube, and so that you can watch it again and also share the link with all your colleagues in HR and L&D in particular. I must thank you so much, Mr. Martin, for joining us tonight. We are happy to have you facilitate this session. This has been worth every minute, every second, and the hour. God bless you. Thank you so much for your generosity and largeness of heart. Please do enjoy the rest of the night. Have a good night rest. You deserve
Thank you
it.
very much. It's my pleasure.
So,
And anytime Nigeria calls, I think we answer the call, or rather, I answer the call for L&D. Thank you.
fantastic. Good night.
Good night.